Let's continue. Hum, said the camel. I shouldn't say that again if I were you, said the Jinn. This is a warning. You might say it once too often. I want you to work. And the camel said hump again. But no sooner had he said it than he saw his back that he was so proud of, puffing up into a great big hump. Do you see that? Said the Jinn. That's your very own hump that you've brought upon your very own self by not working. Today is Thursday, like it is today, and you've done no work since Monday. This could be me speaking to half your class. Now you are going to work. How can I? Said the camel, with this hump on my back. That has a purpose, said the Jinn. All because you missed those 3 days. You'll be able to work for 3 days without eating, because you can live on your hump. Don't you ever say I never did anything for you. Come out of the desert and go to the 3 and behave. And the camel went away and joined the other 3, and from that day to this, the camel always wears a hump. We call it a hump now, not to hurt his feelings. That's Kipling. But he has never yet caught up with the 3 days that he missed at the beginning of the world, and he has never yet learned how to behave. Camels are supposedly rather grumpy creatures. And so that is the fairy tale of how the camel got the hump on its back. I hope that those of you who aren't working are also growing a hump, so that when you return to school, you'll be able to work extra hard without eating like the camel. Now we're going to do the exercises. The first question's on page 3. What tasks do you think were assigned to the dog and the ox? What tasks do you think were assigned, past tense assigned, were assigned to the dog and the ox? How would you like to answer this? Often when you're asked, do you think, you tend to answer, I think. This is not necessary, and at this stage in your academic career might even be a little infantile. You may answer like this. The dog was asked to fetch and carry, and the ox was asked to plow. Simple enough. Listen to it again if you don't know the grammar. Miss Bano, you're going to have to do that. Akansha, you're going to have to do that. Why did the camel live in the middle of the desert? Why did the camel live in the middle of the desert? Well, if you would read it, this abridged version has been made so elementary that one could almost answer in their sleep. Why did the camel live in the middle of the desert? That is a question in past tense. Did. The answer begins. The camel lived in the middle of the desert. Okay. The third question. What made past tense the dog, the horse, and the ox very angry? You're thinking, I'm thinking, I'm seeing that you will write a KE. Don't do that. It is past tense, made, not make. And I do not need to use this verb. I'm going to answer like this. The dog, the horse, and the ox became very angry because they had to work twice as much to make up for the camel's idleness. Write that down. If you can't spell one of those words, ask me. How did the Jinn know the horse was complaining against the camel? How did the Jinn know that the horse was complaining against the camel? You mean, I think the question means, how did the jinn know that the horse was talking about the camel? Because the horse described him as a thing in the middle of your desert with a long neck and long legs. And he hasn't done a stroke of work. You see that? If I were to answer this question, I'd say the jinn. How did the jinn know? The jinn knew. The horse was describing the camel when the horse told him about an animal with a long neck and long legs. Okay? Now I'm on page 5. The next comprehension check, a check of whether you have understood the story. The story is meant for 5 to 6-year-olds. The camel was looking at his own reflection in the pool. What does it suggest to you about the camel? The same thing it suggests to me about you all who are spending so much time, Miss Bano, Miss Akansha, Anjali, Mandeep, looking at your reflection. I don't see you in school or doing any work. Let's see how to answer this question grammatically correctly. I would write this sentence down in the answer. The camel was looking at, and this is a misprint as you can see, at his own reflection in the pool. What does it suggest to you? This suggests that the camel was not only lazy but also vain. V-A-I-N, vain. If you don't know what it means, you know the feeling when you're dressed up and look in the mirror and feel good? That's a vanity. That's you being vain. The answer then is the camel was looking at his own reflection in the pool. This suggests that he was not just lazy but also vain. The camel said hump repeatedly. How did it affect him? The answer. The camel said hump repeatedly, full stop. The jinn became impatient with him and made a hump grow on his back. What, according to the jinn, was the use of the hump? The question begins with what, and the answer begins with according. According to the jinn, past tense, the hump was useful because the camel would be able to live on it and would not need to eat for 3 days at a stretch. Listen to the answer again. Then we come to ... He has never yet learned to behave. In the light of this, what is the writer's opinion about the camel? The writer feels that to this day, camels are grumpy and misbehaving creatures.